It's Wednesday, so it must be Facebook Live Day. It's Dr. Abby Connell at Carolina Hearing Services, a division of Odd Practice Group down here in Charleston, South Carolina. And I'm wearing my pink today because this is coming to the end of Breast Cancer Awareness Month, so I just want to remind all you ladies out there to go get checked. Now on to our topic of the week. This week, we're going to go a little bit back to basics, and we're going to be talking about the parts of a hearing aid. Every hearing aid has three basic parts. They are all going to have a microphone, they're all going to have an amplifier, and they are all going to have a receiver. The most important part that all of those three parts of the hearing aid is not so much that you have those three parts, because every hearing aid is going to have that. The big magic happens with what your brain does with the information that it gets from those parts. So I always try to interweave a lot of information about brain hearing because it's not just a buzzword. Our brains can get sound no matter what kind of hearing aid we use, but just because we get sound doesn't mean our brain knows what to do with it. So having those three basic parts in every hearing aid is obviously super important, or the hearing aid wouldn't work, but it's really what your brain does with that sound that brings forth the clarity and the understanding of speech, whether you're in a quiet environment or in a noisy environment. So to show you the basic parts, we have our typical standard hearing aid, which looks like this. So what I'm going to show you, sorry I get bouncing around there, you have your microphones, which in this particular style, which is known as a mini right, R-I-T-E, standing for receiver in the ear. Some people call these RICs, or R-I-C, receiver in the canal. Mini right and RIC are really pretty much the same thing. So whether you wear a RIC or a mini right, it's going to look something like this. The mini right or RIC typically has 2 to 3 microphones. On the demo unit that I'm talking about today, there's 3 microphones. You have your main microphone on the spine and one on either side. The 3 microphone paradigm with this particular device allows for the best spatial awareness that we can get from 360 degrees. When we have normal hearing, if you think about having 2 ears for a reason, we get information from the front, the sides, and the back. So we really want our hearing aids to be preserving as much of the natural sound quality as we can get. So the 3 microphone system is really, in my opinion, one of the best. Some people that use a RIC or a mini right only have 2, which is still fine, still able to give you great front and side awareness. They just do that a little bit differently. So 3 microphones. The microphones are there to pick up the sound from the environment and from speech. Once the signal comes into the ear and hearing aid, that signal is known as an acoustic signal. Once it's picked up by the microphones and sent to the amplifier that is inside of the case, then it becomes converted into an electrical signal. So we go from acoustic signal from outside of the head into the microphones, and then the hearing aid is converting that signal to an electrical signal and puts it through the amplifier located inside the hearing aid. The amplifier, as it sounds, amplifies the sound, and the hearing aid itself is programmed specifically for a multitude of frequencies between 125 hertz all the way up to about 10,000 hertz. So as that amplifier is giving each of those individual frequencies exactly the amount of amplification that it needs based on your hearing loss, then that whole computer chip is continuing to process that information to be able to determine if you're listening to speech in quiet. Are you listening to speech in loud noise? Is that loud noise made up of mostly people talking, like in a loud restaurant or bar environment? Or is it more of a music sound, such as if you're at a concert? If you are driving in the car, the background noise might also be made up of wind noise or road noise, traffic noise, tire noise. So the hearing aid is doing thousands upon thousands upon thousands of samples of what's coming into those microphones, so the amplifier and processing chip can decide what it needs to do with all of that sound. Once those decisions are made, in a split second, then that processed information is sent through the receiver or speaker that is going to be in the ear canal. And that is where the sound comes out. So those are definitely your three primary parts of the hearing aid. But then of course, they also need power. So they all have some power source. Whether that power source is a standard battery, which are known as zinc air batteries. I'm trying to get one out of my little guy here. So in this, you can see the little silver battery in there. Or sometimes they will use a rechargeable battery. We talked about those a couple weeks ago. So whether you're using a rechargeable battery system or a regular zinc air battery that you throw away, usually about once a week, they all have to power up somehow. So regardless of what type of hearing aid you have, whether it is the mini right or RIC or an in the ear, you're always going to have the microphones, the amplifier, the receiver, and the power source. Coming back to our overall brain hearing, in the long run, knowing that every true digital hearing aid, i.e. those that are not just personal amplifiers, any true digital hearing aid that is programmed specific to your hearing loss at each individual frequency, those hearing aids are all going to have those four basic parts essentially: microphones, amplifier, receiver, power source. That, just having those four, though, I want to add, is not as important as what the brain does with that information. We always have referred back to my trusty poster behind me where we talk about what's happening in the inner ear. The more frequency specific information the hearing aid processing chip can send to the brain, the better the brain will do at actually understanding what is coming through the hearing aid itself. And so I just want to touch base again on the fact that the longer that you go not treating your hearing loss, the harder it becomes for your brain to turn that sound information into meaningful speech or environmental sounds. So I always want to implore upon everyone that watches this video live or later as a recording, remember, the use it or lose it philosophy is very real. It is so real that the longer that you go without treating the hearing loss, the harder it becomes to get those little hair cells in the inner ear to do what they're supposed to do. We want them sending as much speech and environmental information as possible up to the brain. So even if you have an entry-level hearing aid as compared to the premium Cadillac version of all hearing aids, they're still going to have your four main parts: microphones, amplifiers, receivers, and power source. But it's what the brain can do with that information that's going to really determine how quickly and how clear the brain is able to then take that information in and create meaningful speech so that you can communicate at your very best. I always encourage you to come see me at Carolina Hearing Services. We're at 1543 Ashley River Road in Charleston, South Carolina. You can give us a call at 843-556-4327. We are always happy to test your hearing. All of our hearing aid evaluations are always free of charge. At the very least, come in and get a baseline. because the sooner that you start treating that hearing loss, the sooner your brain is going to be fully active and able to process speech and environmental sounds for the rest of your life. I hope you guys have enjoyed this week's topic. Give me a call, shoot me an email, aconnell@audpracticegroup, that's A-U-D, audpractice.net. aconnell@audpractice.net. I hope to see you next week, and give me a shout. Thanks for watching. Bye, guys.